Today we're going to be talking about the equation of a circle. Hopefully you'll have your notes ready here, but we'll give you the formula for these in just a second. One thing we need to recognize, circles are not functions. The y values, there are two y values, so it does not qualify as a function because a circle does fail the vertical line test. Here's our formula for the circle standard form. You can see our center is at h comma k. That is the ordered pair for the center of our circle. And the circle has the radius, that's the distance from the center to the outside. So the r stands for radius in our formula, and then there's our formula. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals the radius squared. So I'm going to have this written up on the board as well, but if you would write that down. I'll pause it for just a minute, but again, it will also be on the board. All right, so as we look at this circle, we are going to write our equation for this circle. We'll zoom in a little bit. I just wanted you to see the coordinate planes as we go here. So this is what our circle looks like, and the first thing we need to do is to identify what the center of the circle is. So the center of the circle is going to be right here. So this center is at -3, 7. And then I'm going to try to find the radius. The smartest way to find the radius is just to look and see a vertical line or a horizontal line, whichever one takes us to the edge of the circle. So we can see this is a step of 1, 2, 3. So we have a radius of 3. So now we actually have all of our parts. What we have is x minus the h value squared plus y minus the k value squared equals the radius squared. And all we're going to do is plug in the values that we have. So our x value ends up being -3. So we're really plugging in a -3. And then our k value is 7. And then our radius, of course, is 3. So we're going to put 3 squared. We'll go ahead and jump down and call that value 9. So when we have minus a negative, we end up with the equation x plus 3 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals our radius squared. In this case, like we said, our radius was 3, so 3 squared is 9. So the equation of this circle is x plus 3 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals 9. And we can also take an equation and construct a circle as well, because we would know where the center is based on our coordinates, and we would know the radius because all we would need to do is square root our value on the outside. Take another look at another example. So we can see our circle is in the third quadrant here. Again, the first thing we need to identify is the center of the circle. And then we are also going to look for the radius. We are sitting at -7, -5. And our radius is over 1, 2, 3. So we have another circle that has a radius of 3. So we just take this and we put it into our equation. And you are welcome to do this one as you go. You don't have to fill in the blanks like I'm doing here. So our radius, though, is 3 again, so this would be 3 squared. Our x value is -7. Our y value is -5. When we have minus a negative, that changes to plus. So this is x plus 7 squared times y plus 5 squared equals 9 again, because we have a radius of the same amount. So in this question, we can see that we do have our center of our circle. Circle is at 3, 6. So we can set up most of our equation, x minus the x of the center squared plus y minus the y of the center squared equals radius squared. Well, in this one, we cannot count out to see what our radius is. 1, 2, 3. And we can see that this radius is not an exact point here. So what we're going to have to do is construct a different radius. It's always nice when we can do the horizontal or vertical radius, but in this case, we cannot. So you've got one of two things, and they're technically the same thing. We need to construct this radius right here. We know those 2 points to be exact points, and I mean, there's points all over the place on this circle, but they're all the same radius, so this is the value we're given. So we can do one of two things. They're technically the same thing. One thing we can do, we can construct a triangle, and on this triangle that I just constructed, I know some sides. I know that this side is over 1, 2, 3, so I have a triangle that has a side of 3. And I have a triangle moving up that has a side of 2. So I could use Pythagorean's theorem in order to find my radius here. Leg squared plus leg squared equals the hypotenuse, which is the radius squared. Many of you are probably going to want to do it this way, and that's fine. I'll probably do it this way on the second example, but for this example, I'm going to use instead the distance formula. So the distance formula is Pythagorean's theorem. It's just all put to a linear amount. So what we do on our distance formula is we take our x and our y values and we subtract those and then square. So I'm going to call this value x2 and y2, x1 and y1. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite our distance formula. For those of you that may not know, the distance formula is one that we use quite often. It's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And remember, these subscript numbers are not math, they're identification. So we simply put these into our distance formula. I call this the skeleton of the equation. It's the way I prefer to do it. You can do it however you want. I'm going to highlight these. I'll highlight this one in green and then write it in green. What you got to make sure of is they fall in the same spot. So from the first coordinate, the 3 is in the back, so the 6 better be in the back. And we'll highlight this other one in blue. And we will also write it in blue. So x2 is 6 and y2 is 8. And then from there, we simply just solve. So 6 minus 3 is 3, so this is 3 squared. Plus 8 minus 6 is 2 squared. So we end up with the square root of 9 plus 4. So the radius is the square root of 13. So here's something that works out really well for us. This is a square root, but remember, we got to go all the way back up to this equation and substitute in our radius. So we end up with the square root of 13 squared. So this ends up being 13. We don't have a radius of 13, but remember the equation is radius squared. So this is what we should be putting in. X minus 3 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals just 13. So this is our example 3 solution.